Wow, we would have never believed this. You can listen to us on our podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. We're on Google. Go out there and listen to us when you're driving to work, or maybe when you're just sitting at home, or you're on the treadmill at the gym. Go on out there and listen to our podcast. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
All right, welcome to Relevant Rants Christmas edition. And, you know, we're going to make this a little bit more lighthearted today. And as you've seen the last few weeks, we've been making some adjustments, kind of changing some things up. We got Tom today because he's got family in town. Glad to see the family here. Glad to see Tessa and Danny and Taylor and everyone home for Christmas. He's coming in over Zoom today. So, Tom, you can say hi.
Hey, so glad to be with you guys. It's kind of weird. We're in the same town, but hey, my family said, hey, be here, and I'm here. So I'm also with you guys in Relevant Rants.
Yep, and we also got Nathaniel today, who has been on. He was on the very first Relevant Rants, and then he's been a little dodgy ever since.
I'm like the local like devil's advocate here in the office, and it's fine. I'm finally back on the show.
Yeah,
but we got devil's advocate. You got to be there to poke us.
Yeah.
No, it is good for sure. So first thing we had today, and I just kind of thought, again, we're going with lighthearted, was Cousin Eddie. Everybody loves Christmas Vacation. It's one of my favorites, and I have we watch it almost every year, and it's a Christmas tradition for a lot of families and families that I'm good friends with. But the police got called about a situation in, I think it was in Michigan, right? That the guy had a Cousin Eddie, like mannequin dressed up like Cousin Eddie with the pipe and everything, and they called the cops and they said, you know, there's a guy standing outside naked drinking a beer, like holding a hose. And the police came out the whole bit, and they're like, "Are you this stupid?"
I like how they call, their first instinct was to call the police and not just like yell across the street, hey, you okay? Just like, you know what I mean? Their first instinct was to call the police.
Don't people have something better to do? You know, it's like
not some people.
Yeah. I've never called the police on my neighbor ever. If I got an issue with my neighbor, I have taken my wife over to talk with my neighbors because I just didn't want it to get out of hand. But never called the police on them. Well, we've always been able to work.
If you have an issue with your neighbor, don't you just go and talk to the other neighbor who is an actual policeman?
Yeah, you just said that. This says a lot about their neighbor.
Yeah.
If you think that there is like a man who's barely wearing anything with a beer outside, standing there in the hours, what does that say about that house? Is this just a normal occurrence for them?
And
he's
just wearing a robe, drinking a beer, like smoking a cigar with and it's freezing cold. It's like snowing outside. So how dumb do they think?
It's just like our quiet neighbors just randomly are now outside.
Ones where the guys like what was it, Christmas Vacation, where he's hanging on to the rain gutter, and he's out there, and people put those mannequins up, and people come over to help them. And it's just a mannequin. It's almost like an interactive display.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was as Nathaniel said, well, that's old news. And he was like thinking about it. Something similar happened in another location.
I don't remember where, but yeah. See, that makes more sense though. If you don't see their face and you see them like hanging, like trying to get on the roof, or like they're falling like that. I understand that, but like someone just standing outside for hours, like.
So keeping with the Christmas theme today. We got a big storm going on in the Great Lakes area, and that personally has affected you, Tom. But I talked to one of my very best friends. It was just funny, like most of my best friends don't live in the same city as me. It's like spread out throughout the U.S. But one of my very best friends talked to him last night, and he was like, yeah, the entire town of Chicago is shut down. And it's 40 below outside, like during the day. And I was like, well, and they're in IT, and I was like, so how are you going to go visit clients? He's like, no, that's not happening. He's like, these people, like most of them, pretty much all of them are staying home, and they understand, like, we're just going to have to get to it in a couple of days. But this affected you too, Tom, personally.
Yeah, personally, Tessa and Danny from Nashville, they were supposed to fly out today, but they got their flights changed because all the flights are getting delayed coming out of Nashville. Some of those southern northern states. And so Danny and Tessa, they're at our house today, and they said yesterday in all the airports that they flew into, people have been waiting there for a couple days, and they aren't happy people at all because the weather has shut them down. And in Clarksville, in Tennessee, Nashville, it's negative 17, and the police department shut down. But my brother-in-law and sister-in-law just pulled into Nashville yesterday. They're living in Murfreesboro, so they were greeted by the weather there. But you know what's cool? I'm going to throw this out there. They've been blessed by their travel background, how friendly people have been in Arkansas, in Texas, and even their neighbors came over there and met them yesterday and helped them unload. I mean, you know, there again, if they're leaving California, they're being met with this friendly attitude. Their neighbors aren't calling each other with mannequins in the front yard. They're actually doing that, and they were just impressed and blessed with the fact that it's cold weather, and the neighbors came out to help them move in.
Yeah, Nathaniel, you had some thoughts on that.
Well, I was just confused. I understand all the inconveniences and stuff like that, but I'm just like, at first when I read this, I was like, yeah, cold places getting colder. Big shock. I mean, I was saying this to you guys earlier. I was just like, when Texas froze over last year, it's not like they had they pulled out the winter boxes where they're just like, we have 1 million blankets because it always gets cold here. No, they're just like, I have a beach towel. That's my blanket. Like, they weren't expecting the ice that came last year. But like this place, it's like, at least they probably had like really, really warm jackets and stuff. And like, they had like a town that was ready for the cold, unlike Texas where they got shut off from the world basically.
Okay,
for a while.
So I have two things to say about that, because that ice storm personally affected my family, right? Because they were all stuck there. I was here, they were there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And Ludavia, first of all, it does get cold. It does snow in Texas, way more than it does in Bakersfield.
It gets cold, yeah, absolutely.
And so it's not abnormal, but like, because we're a family that goes snowboarding and goes to the snow and does stuff. They like. My family was outside playing in the snow and having fun, building snowmen and sledding and doing stuff. And everybody was looking at them like, where did you guys even get those clothes?
Yeah, exactly. You see
Where did you even get snowboarding clothes? There's like, oh, we go snowboarding. We have this. And we're from California.
And I was just thinking, while we were sitting here, you guys were talking, I'm just like, maybe I've been like jaded by movies.
Probably.
Thinking that like why all the around Christmas time and Thanksgiving time, all the
You've seen Home Alone too many times. You're like, they're always closed.
They're
You're
always
like, no,
closed.
that's Home Alone. That's not the same thing.
Planes closing down around Christmas time. This sounds like a great setup for a movie. It's just,
it does.
Well, when I was traveling the United States and bodybuilding, I remember one June where I was in Florida, and I left Florida and had a layover to get back to LAX. And I flew through Denver, and I left Florida in flip-flops, shorts, and a T-shirt. I got to the Denver airport, and it was snowing. And I had to go outside and get on the tram, and people thought I was crazy because I was in shorts and a T-shirt. And I go,
yeah, but Tom, admit you were crazy.
I go, I was in Florida, and it was a nice 90 when I left with humidity, and I'm in this. I was freezing.
Right.
Never forget.
Well, you had more body mass to keep you warm, right? So.
But that's cold. Yeah. Negative 17 is very cold.
Well, like negative 40?
Yeah.
That's Will, my friend, Nathaniel knows him kind of. Tom doesn't. But when I talked to him yesterday, he was just like, no, nobody's going outside. So you're like, oh, they're used to the cold. Yeah, to a degree, but like negative 40? No, they're not used to that. Yeah. Nobody gets used. That's not possible.
No, well, people in Antarctica and Alaska probably think a little different. But.
Yeah, they don't go outside either. Haven't you ever seen Big Bang Theory when they went to the polar ice cap?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So Tom, I know you brought up one of our articles, and this is kind of a little bit more heavy than some of this lighthearted stuff. Well, the storm isn't super lighthearted, but again, this article about the anti-abortion priest that became defrocked, or tell us more about that, Tom.
Well, I just think they're looking at methods more than anything else. And he's been known for just being very graphic with his descriptions of fetuses and things like that. But I do think that he's telling a story that it is graphic. I mean, abortion is dealing with killing babies, and he's being very open and honest for it. And it seems like, and I mean, news is news, that he has been defrocked specifically because of his views on abortion. And I thought that was pretty extreme, considering the Catholic Church, because I know we had our governor and Nancy Pelosi, who I think the Vatican got even involved with Nancy Pelosi's stand when one of the archbishops in the Bay Area was telling her that she had to either quit taking communion or she had to change her stance on abortion when it's referring to being a good Catholic. Said, hey, don't put those two words together. I'm a good Catholic and I believe in abortion. Don't put those together, or we're just going to have to keep you from getting communion. And then the Vatican didn't back them on that. Then they defrock a guy for being consistent with his, hey, abortion is pretty bad, and let me show you some graphic images of what abortion does. It kills babies.
Well,
and he gets to.
I agree with his stance, obviously, but he did something you were telling me the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but it was like, what?
Yeah, well, you can look up the article. I know Alex will have that article. You can read it. I mean, I think we should keep it lighthearted. I think our verbal description probably gets people an imagery,
right?
That can deal with it. And guys, that's one of the things. I mean, I think when people talk about abortion, they think when the federal government gets out involved, they don't have any rights. States have the rights. I think there's pretty much all the states allow them to have abortion up until 15 weeks or something. If you can't make up your mind by 15 weeks, I mean, hey, have a baby. Let somebody raise it that is wanting a baby or maybe can't have them. I think there's probably, I think defrocking the guy, unless there's things we don't know, and there probably is, but I think that's, pretty extreme, especially, in the Catholic Church, who's been a little more liberal with this idea than anything else.
Yeah, but I don't think this was also the first thing they did. They didn't just go straight to this. I was listening to an interview with him, and they said that they actually came up to him and said, you're being a little forceful with this message. Not that we're against it, but you're being too forceful with what you're putting out there. And he politely said, this is what I do. This is what I'm called for. This is kind of what I'm going to do here, kind of saying what he somewhat said. And then they actually tried to put him on a lower, like say, hey, can you do, I forget what the specific term is. No, not demote, but there's a specific like place that they wanted to kind of put him in, say, hey, you're in charge of this now. And he's like, I want to do this. This is what I've been building. And so they tried kind of putting him in lower, I guess, places where he's not seen as much. And so that's what they did. And when that obviously wasn't working, or he basically declined from what I was hearing from him, that's when they decided to, it looks like, defrock him. And he's like, even though I'm not in charge, my team runs without me. He's like, I'm just helping with the topic points. I'm helping with getting the message out. But they're the ones now, the teams have now gone off and they're doing their own thing. He's like, we're partnered with I wish I would have had the names off the top of my head. But there was like 3 or 4 different big organizations that are helping spread the message that he wants across all across wherever he's wanted to. So it's like, even though this happened to me, the message is still going out. I'm still getting what I want to talk about spread out, which I think is pretty neat.
So I agree with the message. I'm not sure, and I obviously don't know enough details to say this or not, but from some of the things I've heard, I don't know that I necessarily would agree with the methods.
Yeah, the method's a little forceful.
But there was obviously some more politics going on internally in the Catholic Church for this to happen. But I think certain elements of the Catholic Church for a long time, and you could say the same thing about the Christian Church, so we're not singling them out, but certain elements of the Catholic Church for a long time have taken a more liberal stance on some of the issues, and especially social issues.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's more liberal.
They do.
Yeah, it's either that or it's more of the like, we'll say this kind of biting our tongues and just so that we don't keep arguing about the same issues over and over again. You know what I mean? It's like that, finding that common ground by just letting them have their word. That's what it feels like a lot, at least.
Well, I don't know how you go about it. A lot of people know my stance. I think God's in charge of life. He doesn't take life; he receives life, but he gives life. And I think people we try to do things. I just feel as it's a huge topic out there, huge, and I think a lot of people know our stance. I mean, if the federal government gets involved, they're just saying deal with it at the state level. Women still have a choice, and they can make a choice to terminate their baby's life, 15 weeks, whatever the number is. They can do it. Hey, I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I think it's wrong, but they're still gonna do it, and I think everybody's gonna stand before God and give an account. So if they want to do that, hey, all the power to them.
And on that, I think it's kind of crazy how much society has devolved into, like, these things are not only acceptable, like, if you don't agree with them, you're like a bad person. Like, what are you talking about? Like, by taking a stance of what would traditionally be considered being a good person, like standing for right, standing for the truth, like and the Bible says that, right? What's right will be made wrong, and what's wrong will be made right. And I think that, like, we've been living in that for, it seems to have gotten worse over the last, like, I don't know, probably less than 5 years. But it's been devolving like that for decades. But it's almost like accelerated at a very rapid pace.
There again, hey, people are going to live their lives, right? And what I hate is when people are saying they don't have a choice. I mean, it goes back to the states; they do have a choice, and it hasn't been taken away. I mean, states are trying to do that, but hey, if you live in a state, exercise your right to vote, get involved, and when you say, hey, we don't have a choice, you got a choice. I get a problem though when it starts getting to when there is a heartbeat, which can be detected early on. We do believe life is at conception. I do believe we shouldn't have the right to take life, and that goes against the death penalty too. People know my stance on that. I still am not going to be the guy that pulls the handle. I get why it happens. There's other people that decide that. We have laws that say you do this. There's a death penalty connected with that. The Bible says that we're supposed to obey the laws of the land. So I'm just out there going, hey, I get it all exists, but I do believe I'm consistent that I don't want to, God has the right to choose and take life.
Well, I think what you're talking about with they're saying that you don't have the right to abortion. First of all, I don't think that's a right to have an abortion. That's like, you're being allowed to do that, but taking someone, that is a choice, being allowed to take a life. But I think it's a lot of gaslighting, right? So it kind of made me think of, the whole, this big spending bill that just got pushed through, right? The big spending bill that just like overnight got pushed through, and it's like what, $1.9 trillion on a lot of just like garbage, right? But what's crazy is you have the spokesperson for Biden, what, I forget the name right now, it doesn't come to me, but who's come out and saying, oh, well, you can't say that we're not for border security. We're for border security. Just look at the spending bill we just passed, right? It specifically says in the spending bill not to be used for those purposes. It's to expedite people. It specifically says, the language says, it's to expedite people coming into the U.S. So you're saying, so it's like gaslighting. You're saying one thing, but the exact opposite of that thing is, I mean, just similar. You look at the Recession Act or whatever, the other spending bill they had not that long ago, and exactly the thing, the Inflation Reduction Act, there you go, exactly the thing that it says it's to do, it's doing exactly the opposite, right? And it's like we're headed off a cliff. I mean, the country cannot continue to spend the kind of money that they're spending, and then bringing in people. There's tens of thousands of people waiting at the border, waiting for this thing, and it's probably going to be sometime next week or maybe after the first of the year. I think it's Title 12, 42, something like that, to expire. That Trump enacted, like whenever he was in office, to kind of curb the immigration issue, the illegal immigration issue. Biden and the Biden administration is like, oh, we're going to wipe that out. And, and we're protecting the border when you're doing exactly the opposite. And your spending bill says that the funds cannot be used for that.
I think it goes back to Mike, and I agree with you. I wish people would just not lie or be misleading. I think people can handle the truth. And I think that's why you just need to say what you're doing is what you're doing. And I get it. I get politics. I understand it. But I also understand that, Mike, you guys have a business, and you and Nathaniel are in charge of your business. And 511 Media Group's part of that. But I think you guys need to bring in more than you spend every month, right?
Of course.
I think that's what Nathaniel works hard, and you work hard, and all your employees work hard. My wife and I work hard because we have jobs, and we believe in them, and we have purpose that gives us passion. But our goal is that once we bring in money, we need to be able to not spend more than we take. Our government spends way more than we bring in.
Massively.
There's just a simple math equation that is going to catch up to this country. And I think everybody keeps warning of it, right?
Yeah.
And we for some reason everybody just thinks, in America money grows on trees, but it's on the back of the tax.
Well, you say that people can handle the truth, and I agree with that. People can handle the truth. However, telling them the truth is not politically expedient, and that's why they give misinformation and false information. Because if they told the truth, the outcome of elections would not be what they desire.
I get it. That's why we talk about what we do. That's why we have a relevant rant.
Yep.
It is.
But
there's a lot of people that believe both sides. I do. One of the things I think that as we leave people with is I watched our lunch break yesterday, and I really liked it. I thought that traditions were something that we were really big with. And I think if people are out there, family is so important. Mm-hmm. And I think whatever you've got available to you. And I don't think this age has lacked us with technology. You can communicate to people. And I think in the end, it really matters is how we're treating each other, families first, and then how we're treating our neighbor. I think we have to be able to continue to give. And I think there's so many great groups out there that are doing this. I know the Mission in Bakersfield's got a big program going on. We have the Flood with the homeless. And I know wherever our program goes, they've got those things together. But I do see that there's good things happening. I've seen it in our community here, with the programs that our church does for giving people who can't go out there. Maybe they're less fortunate, need presence. If you're out there, contact our church, Pastor Hector. I think the police department. I think everybody's out there trying to make sure that everybody has a pleasant holiday experience.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about that on our lunch break show. You don't have to believe in Christmas the way we do, but if you're out there and you're looking at the giving spirit, which I think, that holiday is supposed to represent that. You can have a great story no matter where you're at.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think the thing I want to leave people with is just encourage, if you don't have someone to spend time with, pray that God will put someone special in your life for that. And if you are around other people that don't have someone, I would encourage you to invite them to spend time with you. And also continue, as Tom was saying, to make traditions with your family and your kids.
Hey, I tell people what, and I checked yesterday with it, that people in the senior living communities, if you don't have somebody to go see, go and visit somebody there. I'm telling you, a lot of them don't get a lot of visitors, and they cherish that. And so if you want relationships in your lives, that you can get one there. I mean, a lot of people are there. The family doesn't come to see them. So just maybe stop by a few of the assisted livings, senior centers. I think you'll find a very big purpose for yourself.
Yeah. Anything you want to add in closing?
No, I just hope that everyone who's watching has a Merry Christmas.
Yes,
and that
Merry Christmas.
We hope that there is only nothing but good news over the weekend.
We hope.
Amen.
Merry Christmas.
Amen.
And God bless.
Merry Christmas. See you.